To celebrate 3,000 of you guys subscribing to this channel, I wanted to combine the two things that got us here, Pokemon and Zelda. So, what if there are Pokemon based on the most recent Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom? Let's cut the fluff and just dive right in. And seriously guys, thank you so much. For this video, I've got 3 Pokemon lines to show you, and it just so happens that Tears of the Kingdom has 3 different maps to explore: the sky, the surface, and the depths. So, let's start with the game's big seller, the sky. And up in the sky resides the ruins of the Zonai, who play a big role in Tears of the Kingdom, specifically through their technology. 2 big ways we see their technology is with constructs, soldiers they created, and Zonite, an ore used to make their creations. Nacli is a Pokemon from Generation 9 that embodies raw salt, which then evolves to become more uniform blocks of salt. So, how about we make a Hyrulean Nacli of sorts based on Zonite and evolve it into a Garganacl based on a construct? If you find yourself exploring the skies of Hyrule, prepare to meet Hyrulean Nacli, the Zonite Pokemon, a rock and electric type. It was born deep underground and given life by the battery power of natural Zonite. The Zonai of ancient times treasured these Pokemon as they would lead them to large deposits of Zonite for them to mine. The Zonite of this Pokemon can also be harvested as it forms very quickly inside of Nacli's body. It is thought that this is the original form of Nacli, and as salt became more useful than Zonite in other parts of the world, it changed to grow salt and stay useful to humans. It has the abilities Battery and Sturdy, and the hidden ability Electromorphosis, which boosts electric type attacks after being hit by the opponent. The shiny form alludes to Paldean Nacli slightly by having a white colored Zonite, reminiscent of its salt. I wanted to make this Pokemon a convergent Pokemon rather than a regional form, but because it basically had to be a rock type still, I just couldn't do that, so I made it a regional form instead. I think it's a simple change from Paldean Nacli, but also really works. At level 24, Hyrulean Nacli evolves into Hyrulean Knucklestack. This Pokemon has the same typing and abilities of its pre-evolution, but boasts much more defense. This Pokemon can condense Zonite within its body and shoot out hardened Zonite pellets with enough force to blast through a sheet of iron. It uses its electricity to shock and stop the hearts of its prey, which it can then eat. If told to protect something by its trainer, they will do so at all costs, whether their opponent is truly a foe or not. At the end of the day, this is the middle stage between 2 Pokemon that have good concepts and just needed to bridge the gap. It's not the most outstanding design, but it does what it needs to do. I hope you respect it after seeing its final evolution. And speaking of, at level 38, your Hyrulean Knucklestack will evolve into Hyrulean Garganacl, the Flux Pokemon, a rock and electric type with huge defense and attack. This Pokemon is based on the Flux construct boss of Tears of the Kingdom. It was used by ancient kings to stand guard at the castle and other important places. It has 3 heads, and using its electricity can rearrange them along with the blocks that compose its limbs. The heads are its weak points, so it uses its power to create walls to defend. On the other hand though, it can use its blocks to attack. It will either slam its giant hands down on you, or use all of its blocks to drop one giant rock wall on its opponent. So basically, the same things the real Flux constructs can do. Speaking of moves though, like Garganacl has the signature move Salt Cure, Hyrulean Garganacl has a new signature move, Flux Pounder. This is an electric type move that mimics Hammer Arm. With an electrified arm, it slams the opponent. This move has 100 base power and 90% accuracy, but lowers the speed stat of the opponent by 1 stage. It also has a chance to paralyze. The shiny form follows the patterns that Hyrulean Nacli started with. I think Garganacl was the perfect fit for a regional variant Pokemon based on this Tears of the Kingdom boss. Golurk might have worked too, but I think the blocks of salt becoming these construct blocks made just too much sense. Moving from the sky down onto the surface, let's make a Pokemon that would live down there. And one that I thought would be perfect was the Bubble Frog. These are a new addition to the Bluebee family of monsters that are exclusive to Tears of the Kingdom. And remember, this video is about new Tears of the Kingdom Pokemon, not just Zelda Pokemon. That gives me 19 more possible videos. Bubble frogs appear in every single cave in the game, and since caves are kind of the new thing on Hyrule surface, I thought they were the perfect candidate for a Pokemon. With that said though, meet Blue Pop, the Bubble Frog Pokemon. It's a pure fairy type. The name Blue Pop comes from Bloopy, which is the little animal things that the bubble frogs in game become when you shoot them. And speaking of shooting them, the second part of its name comes from Pop, which is what bubbles do. And along with this, the bubble frogs in Tears of the Kingdom also always die in one hit from the player. So for fun, I wanted to give Blue Pop the Wonder Guard ability, meaning it can only be KO'd by super effective moves, which are either steel or poison type attacks in this case, but it only has 1 HP. This would be the only other Pokemon besides Shedinja to have this ability, but I think it makes total sense for a magical fairy frog to have a weird Wonder Guard. This Pokemon lives in caves and usually tries to avoid battle. If it does feel threatened though, it can shoot bubbles out of its mouth. Its wings don't allow it to fly, but they do let it jump higher. It's said that they can jump from cave entrance to cave entrance, so if they ever need to move, they don't actually need to encounter anyone on the ground. Blue Pop are rare nowadays, as they are commonly hunted by poachers. They hold a gem inside of them that's worth a fortune. If you look at the shiny, I basically just changed the hue of everything at the same time, and thought this combination of colors looked nice, so there's no meaning behind it. Bluebees have faces that look like the faces of owls, so I gave Blue Pop patterns on its face that look slightly like an owl. Playing into that some more, I gave it small wings on its back and even smaller wings on its back legs. As I said, it can't actually fly, but can jump super high. I wanted to give it feathers because the Bubble Frog in Tears of the Kingdom has hair, but this thing looked terrifying with hair, so I opted for wings, since they're kinda like hair for birds. I also gave it a tail that mimics its antennas, just to bring the design together and not make the antenna seem random. Keep in mind, I didn't want to make literal, just like bubble frogs, but in Pokemon style. I wanted to make a Pokemon that's based on a bubble frog, so it doesn't look exactly the same. The next Pokemon I wanted to introduce is another with Wonder Guard, the subscribe button. This Pokemon only has 1 HP, meaning it'll faint after just one click of it. So go ahead and defeat it, and let's move on to the final 2 Pokemon. Going from the surface, and even further down into the depths, you might find Binalis, the Gloom Spawn Pokemon, a pure Dark type. This Pokemon lurks in the shadows and will surprise attack anything that comes into its domain. It rises from the ground and grabs at its prey with vicious speed. These Pokemon live in packs. One will grab ankles, another wrists, until enough grab on that they can strangle their prey. Once unconscious, they will pull their prey down into the shadows to feast. It's said these Pokemon are born from negative energy. You might think this Pokemon is related to Binacle, but it really isn't. Binalis is a convergent form of Binacle. The name Binalis comes from the binary for 2 hands and malice, which is the evil goop from Breath of the Wild, but it's close enough to Tears of the Kingdom's gloom. The shiny form takes on a look that's more reminiscent of Breath of the Wild's malice too, since it was more purple and gloom is more red. The stripes it has on the arm part of these hands are meant to convey the idea of muscle fibers. If you played Tears of the Kingdom, you know that the Gloom hands are terrifying, and these things would be terrifying in the Pokemon world too. You may also know that sometimes after you defeat some Gloom hands, another enemy will appear. Phantom Ganon. Raise your Binalis to level 39 and it'll evolve into Barbaralis, a Dark and Ghost type, based on the Gloom Spawn enemy combined with the humanoid posture of Phantom Ganon. This Pokemon sends Binalis to do its dirty work, but if they're defeated, Barbaralis will appear. It fights with the power of 7 Binalis. Its hands and legs have minds of their own, but always follow the commands of the head. If Barbaralis is in a pinch, the hands and legs will move on their own to ensure the enemy's defeat. It often finds itself fighting Pokemon that are known to be heroic in nature. The name Barbaralis comes from Barbarical and Malice. It boasts huge attack and defense, and has moves like Night Slash and Shadow Claw. They have the abilities Wandering Spirit and Shadow Tag, as well as the very fitting hidden ability Supreme Overlord. It follows the same color scheme as Binalis by having the colors of Gloom, while the shiny has colors of Malice. The red stripes once again allude to the muscle fibers of the Gloom hands and Phantom Ganon's decaying body, while the dripping goop is reminiscent of Phantom Ganon's tattered clothes. The Gloom hands became iconic, jump-scaring everyone on their first playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom, and Phantom Ganon appearing after defeating them was a cherry on top. So it would be a crime if I didn't make that idea into Pokemon for this video. It would also be a crime if you watched this video all the way to the end and didn't like and subscribe. So do that, or else the Gloom Hands will get you. Let me know your favorite Tears of the Kingdom Fakemon from this video in the comments too, and check out my other Fakemon and Zelda videos if you haven't already. And thanks once again for all the support. Bye bye.